Ladies and gentlemen, as we stand at the close of a remarkable year, I invite you to pause for just a moment and reflect. 2024 was not simply another year on the calendar. It was a test of our resilience, of our discipline, of our courage to dream, and our determination to rise. This year has shown us that greatness does not belong to the chosen few. It belongs to those who refuse to quit when everything seems against them. What you will hear today is not just a collection of words. It is the best of 2024, the wisdom distilled from the voices of leaders, dreamers, and everyday warriors who pushed beyond their limits. I ask you to stay with me until the very end, because what you are about to hear has the power to shift the way you see your life, your challenges, and your future. This is not just motivation. It is a blueprint, a call to action, a reminder that you already hold within you the strength to rewrite your story. So I encourage you, don't just listen. Lean in. Let these words challenge you, empower you, and ignite the fire that 2025 will demand from all of us. Because your best chapter has not yet been written, and it begins today. When I look back at 2024, the one word that rises above all others is resilience. This year tested us in ways we could not have predicted. It demanded more from us than we thought we had to give. It stretched us, it broke us down, and yet, in those moments when it felt easier to walk away, resilience became the quiet force that carried us forward. We all know what it feels like to face obstacles, to experience setbacks, to hear the voice in our head that says, "It's over." But 2024 reminded us that it's never over unless we decide it is. The power to rise again, to try once more, to take one more step, is the very essence of resilience. Resilience is not about never falling. It is about rising every single time we do. It is about finding a way to breathe when the weight of the world is pressing on your chest. It is about knowing that pain may visit you, but defeat is optional. And this year, time and again, we saw ordinary people doing extraordinary things, simply because they refused to let their struggles define them. They understood something powerful, that resilience is not a gift you are given at birth. It is a muscle you build through hardship, through loss, through trial, and through fire. Think of the moments when you were on the edge of giving up. Perhaps it was in your work, where nothing seemed to go right. Perhaps it was in your personal life, where relationships tested your patience and strength. Perhaps it was in the quiet moments where you battled doubts nobody else could see. In each of those moments you had a choice. You could give in to the voice of defeat, or you could push back, take another breath, and say, "I am not finished yet." That is resilience, and 2024 has proven that those who chose it discovered a new version of themselves they never knew existed. Resilience is not glamorous. It doesn't always look powerful from the outside. Sometimes it looks like getting out of bed when your heart is heavy. Sometimes it looks like making a plan when everything around you feels uncertain. Sometimes it looks like whispering to yourself, "I can do this," when no one else is around to encourage you. But those small acts, repeated again and again, become the foundation of greatness. They build strength in silence, strength that prepares you for the moments when the world will need you to shine. The truth is, resilience is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. Anyone can have a vision, anyone can set a goal, but it is the resilient who carry that dream through storms, through criticism, through failure, until it becomes reality. 2024 was proof that the path to success is never straight. It bends, it twists, it tests your limits, and it often breaks you down before it builds you up. But if you stayed the course, if you kept going when everything in you wanted to stop, you are walking into the next chapter stronger, wiser, and unshakable. And what is most inspiring is that resilience doesn't just transform our lives. It transforms the lives of everyone watching us. When your children see you stand back up after a failure, they learn courage. When your colleagues watch you face challenges with determination, they learn perseverance. When your community sees you keep building, even when the odds are against you, they learn that hope is still alive. Resilience is contagious, and 2024 reminded us that when one person rises, it gives permission for countless others to rise as well. But let me be clear, resilience is not about pretending everything is fine when it isn't. It's not about hiding your struggles or wearing a mask of strength while you silently fall apart. True resilience is honest. It admits when life is hard. It acknowledges when you are hurting, but it also refuses to let pain write the final chapter. Resilience says, "This is difficult, but it is not the end. I will not stop here. I will not let this be my story." And in that moment, you take your power back. Every great achievement in history has resilience written all over it. Every invention, every breakthrough, every movement for change was born from people who encountered resistance and decided not to surrender. They were laughed at, doubted, underestimated, and still they persisted. They fell down, sometimes in ways that seemed impossible to recover from, and yet they chose to rise. And because they did, they changed the course of history. So as we carry the lessons of 2024 into the future, we must ask ourselves, are we willing to be resilient? Are we willing to keep fighting when no one claps for us? Are we willing to believe in tomorrow even when today feels unbearable? If the answer is yes, then there is nothing, absolutely nothing, that can stop us. Because resilience doesn't just prepare us for the next battle, it transforms us into the kind of people who cannot be broken. And that is the greatest victory of all, to stand taller not because life was easy, but because you proved to yourself that no matter what came your way, you could rise again. If resilience was the foundation of 2024, then discipline was the bridge that carried us through. Motivation may have been what lit the spark for so many of us this year, but it was never enough to keep the fire burning. Motivation is fleeting. It is the rush of excitement when we start something new, the energy we feel when inspiration strikes, the thrill of imagining a future we desire. But as powerful as motivation is, it fades. It doesn't always show up in the mornings when you are exhausted, when the path feels too long, when the excitement of starting has been replaced with the weight of continuing. And it is in those moments that discipline takes over. Discipline is not a feeling. It is a choice, repeated consistently, even when every part of you wants to stop. The truth is, the people who achieved the most in 2024 were not those who were simply inspired. They were the ones who showed up day after day, who followed through when it wasn't convenient, who kept their commitments not because they felt like it, but because they promised themselves they would. They understood that motivation might get you moving, but it is discipline that ensures you arrive. Without discipline, dreams remain fantasies. With it, those same dreams become reality. Think about your own journey this year. There were likely moments when you were excited, ready to chase your vision, eager to change your life. And then came the days when nothing went according to plan, when fatigue set in, when you questioned if it was worth it. Those were the defining moments, the crossroads where most people walk away. But if you chose discipline, if you chose to keep going even in the absence of excitement, then you discovered the real key to success. Because success does not reward those who start, it rewards those who refuse to quit. Discipline is what separates wishful thinking from lasting achievement. It is easy to say, "I want to be healthier," when you are motivated by a picture or a quote. But discipline is waking up at dawn, lacing your shoes, and moving your body when every excuse tells you to stay in bed. It is easy to say, "I want to build wealth," when you are inspired by someone else's story. But discipline is managing your money, saying no to distractions, investing in your future when nobody is applauding you for it. It is easy to say, "I want to grow," but discipline is reading, studying, practicing, failing, and trying again long after the initial thrill has worn off. The beauty of discipline is that it doesn't demand perfection. It doesn't ask you to be extraordinary every single day. It only asks you to be consistent, to show up, to honor the process. And what 2024 showed us is that even small acts of discipline, repeated over time, compound into extraordinary results. The gym session you didn't skip, the work you did when no one noticed, the habit you maintained day after day, these are the bricks that built your progress. They may have seemed insignificant in the moment, but together they formed a structure strong enough to carry your dreams. Discipline also teaches us something profound about freedom. We often think freedom means doing what we want, when we want. But in truth, real freedom is the ability to live the life you choose, not the life dictated by your impulses or circumstances. And that freedom only comes through discipline. It comes from mastering yourself, controlling your habits, and directing your energy where it matters most. Those who embraced discipline in 2024 discovered that it was not a burden but a path to liberation. Of course, discipline is not easy. It demands sacrifice. It asks you to delay gratification, to endure discomfort, to choose long-term gain over short-term pleasure. But every sacrifice has a purpose, and every act of discipline plants a seed that will one day bear fruit. And when you see the harvest, when you see the strength, the success, the transformation, it all becomes worth it. The reason discipline matters so much is because it prepares you for the inevitable moments when motivation disappears. It ensures that your progress doesn't crumble with your mood. It gives you structure when your emotions try to distract you. And it reminds you that success is not about doing great things once. It is about doing the right things consistently. That is the power of discipline. As we look back on 2024, one lesson is undeniable. The world does not reward those who are occasionally inspired. It rewards those who are relentlessly disciplined. The speeches you heard, the stories that inspired you, the victories that moved you, all of them were built not on fleeting bursts of motivation, but on quiet, unshakable discipline. Because at the end of the day, motivation starts the race, but it is discipline that crosses the finish line. If resilience gives us the strength to rise, and discipline ensures that we keep going, then mindset is what defines how far we can truly go. And not just any mindset, the mindset of the 1%. What separates those who dream from those who live their dreams is not luck, not privilege, not even talent alone. It is how they think, how they approach challenges, how they see the world when others are blinded by obstacles. The mindset of the 1% is not about superiority. It is about responsibility. It is about owning your vision so deeply that no setback, no criticism, and no fear can take it away from you. The 1% understand that success begins in the mind long before it ever appears in reality. They know that your thoughts shape your actions shape your habits, and your habits shape your destiny. This year reminded us that the most powerful tool any of us will ever have is not money, connections, or even opportunity. It is the mindset with which we meet every moment. Because when your mind is strong, every problem becomes an opportunity, and every obstacle becomes a lesson. We all witnessed in 2024 how quickly things can change. Doors closed, Plans shifted, uncertainties rose, and yet, those with the right minds set did not collapse under the weight of uncertainty. They adapted. They refused to see problems as dead ends. Instead, they saw them as detours guiding them towards something greater. That is the mindset of the 1% to see what others cannot, to believe when others doubt, to persist when others quit. It is so easy to fall into the trap of negative thinking, to tell yourself that success is only for those who have advantages you do not, to believe that your circumstances define you. But the truth is, the mindset of the 1% rejects limitation. It refuses to surrender to excuses. It chooses empowerment over blame, solutions over complaints, progress over perfection. And once you begin to think this way, everything in your life begins to shift. This mindset is not arrogant. It is not about believing you are better than others. It is about holding yourself to a higher standard than you did yesterday. It is about demanding growth from yourself when it would be easier to stay comfortable. It is about embracing challenges as opportunities to expand, not as reasons to retreat. The 1% understand that comfort never created greatness, and so they step willingly into discomfort, knowing that is where transformation lies. Think about the people you admire, the stories that inspired you throughout this past year. Were they people who had it easy? Or were they people who faced storms, doubters, even their own fears, and still chose to keep going? Their secret was not perfection, it was mindset. They chose to think differently. They trained themselves to focus on possibilities, not limitations. They refused to let temporary setbacks destroy permanent potential, and in doing so, they unlocked doors most people will never even knock on. What we often forget is that the mind is a battlefield. Every day we are faced with voices, some external, many internal, that tell us we are not ready, not good enough, not worthy. The difference between those who rise and those who remain is not that the 1% never hear those voices, it's that they choose not to obey them. They recognize those doubts for what they are, distractions, and they replace them with a louder voice that says, "Yes, I can. Yes, I will. Watch me." There is extraordinary power in perspective. Two people can face the same challenge, and one will see only defeat while the other will see opportunity. The difference is mindset, and this year, countless stories have reminded us that perspective is often the most important decision we make. Because when you choose to see obstacles as opportunities, you unlock a strength that no external force can take away. The mindset of the 1% is not about waiting for the perfect time, because they know the perfect time will never come. It is about creating opportunities, taking risks, trusting themselves even when the path is unclear. They understand that fear will always be present, but they refuse to let fear be the driver of their decisions. Instead, they move forward with courage, and courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in spite of it. And perhaps the most defining trait of this mindset is vision. The 1% don't just think about today. They think about tomorrow, about the next year, the next decade. They are not distracted by instant gratification because they are focused on legacy. They build with intention, knowing that the seeds they plant today will create forests for generations to come. And that perspective, that long-term vision, is what ensures their impact endures far beyond their own lives. So the question we must all ask ourselves as we leave behind 2024 is simple. What mindset will we choose? Will we let our doubts dictate our future, or will we adopt the mindset of the 1%, the mindset that refuses to quit, that sees possibility in impossibility, that chooses faith over fear and action? over excuses, because when your mind shifts, your entire world shifts with it. And when you embrace the mindset of the 1%, there is no obstacle too great, no challenge too heavy, and no dream too distant. As we reflect on everything 2024 has taught us about resilience, about discipline, about mindset, there is one lesson that rises above them all. True success is never just about the present moment. It is about what we leave behind. It is about the legacy we build. This year reminded us that life is not measured by the applause we receive, the titles we carry, or the things we accumulate, but by the impact we create in the lives of others. The best of 2024 was not about individual victories. It was about collective inspiration, about the ripple effect created when one person chooses to rise, and in doing so, lifts others with them. Legacy is not reserved for presidents, for innovators, or for those whose names will be written in history books. Legacy is built every day in small choices, in quiet acts of courage, in the way we treat people when no one is watching. It is the encouragement you offer a stranger, the lesson you teach your child, the standard you set in your community. And when you live with that awareness, you realize that everything you do carries weight. Every word, every decision, every act of perseverance leaves a mark that echoes far beyond you. The most powerful thing about legacy is that it is never about self. It is about service. It asks you to think bigger than your own goals, bigger than your own comfort. It pushes you to ask, what am I building that will outlast me? Who am I inspiring that I may never meet? How will my story ignite someone else's? And those questions change everything. Because when your purpose expands beyond yourself, your strength multiplies. Suddenly, the battles you fight are not just for your own survival. They are for the people who will one day draw courage from your example. In 2024, we saw countless examples of individuals who turned personal struggle into shared hope. People who refused to keep their light to themselves, who chose to stand as proof that it is possible to rise. That is what building a legacy looks like. It is not about perfection. It is about authenticity. It is about standing tall in your truth, knowing that your journey may one day give someone else the courage to begin theirs. There is a difference between success and significance. Success is achieving your own goals. Significance is helping others achieve theirs. Success is about what you gain. Significance is about what you give. And the truth is, significance lasts. It endures. It carries forward long after the applause fades, long after the spotlight shifts. The best of 2024 reminded us that the world does not remember those who only chased achievements. It remembers those who used their achievements to uplift, to inspire, and to create lasting change. Building a legacy is not about waiting for the right time or the right platform. It begins now. It begins in the way you handle challenges with grace, the way you honor your commitments, the way you live with integrity when no one is watching. It begins in the decision to turn your pain into purpose, your failures into lessons, and your victories into opportunities to give back. Legacy is created not in grand moments, but in daily choices that reflect who you are and what you stand for. And here is the truth. Your legacy is already being written. Whether you are aware of it or not, the way you live today is shaping the stories others will tell tomorrow. The question is not whether you will leave a legacy, but what kind of legacy you will leave. Will it be one of excuses and regrets, or one of courage, resilience, and contribution? Will it tell the story of someone who lived only for themselves, or of someone who lived in a way that inspired countless others? The mindset of the 1% that we spoke of earlier is not only about achieving greatness. It is about sustaining it, sharing it, and leaving behind a path for others to follow. Because if your journey ends with you, it dies with you. But if your journey inspires someone else to dream, to fight, to believe, then your story never ends. It becomes part of something greater, something eternal. So as we step into the next chapter, let us not only think of what we want to achieve, but of what we want to contribute. Let us not only build success for ourselves, but significance for others. Let us not only focus on the life we are living, but on the lives we are shaping. Because in the end, the measure of a year like 2024 is not just in the goals reached, but in the legacies born. And when you choose to build a legacy, you discover the truest form of success, knowing that long after you are gone, the impact of your courage, your resilience, and your discipline will continue to inspire